The psychological traps that make us financially vulnerable. I'm talking about falling for scams and what we can do to avoid them. And if we are scammed, how do we emotionally recover to get ourselves back, our full empowered selves to make good financial decisions going forward? Every year, millions of people fall victim to financial scams, losing billions in the process, from Ponzi schemes to fake investment opportunities, phishing emails and phone calls, devastating romance frauds, and scammers around crypto, and even those who'll supposedly be here to help you, saying, warning you of being scammed. They're being scammed. So why do so many of us, regardless of our intelligence, our education, our experience, still fall for these scams? The answer lies in understanding the psychological tactics scammers use and the behavioral traits that make us so vulnerable. Because when we can recognize these patterns, we can then build mental firewalls to protect our wealth, our well-being, just our sense of sanity, and that we can still trust ourselves. So, what are these psychological factors that make us vulnerable to scams? The first is cognitive bias, how our brains trick us. Our brains rely on mental shortcuts, on cognitive biases to make decisions quickly. And this is really useful in everyday life where we get by, we know what those is, we get to use our mental resources on big important stuff, not just everyday small things. But scammers manipulate these biases to their advantage. One of these is the authority bias. When we're wired to obey authority figures, well, maybe we were taught to from being a kid, your parents, your teacher, the police, the whatever. So there's this do what you're told from certain types of authority figures without question. This is part of our survival strategy to keep us safe. But scammers exploit this by posing as officials from tax agencies, from banks or law enforcement. And, an example is this is the infamous IRS scam in the US, where it involves fraudsters calling victims and demanding immediate payment for alleged unpaid taxes. And so the fear of legal trouble makes many comply without verifying that claim. Think about when you're told you've got an outstanding fine, or there's something waiting for you at the post office, but a tax or a customs amount has to be paid. So not only can fraudsters get money that way, but often they can then get access into bank accounts, because often people will send to links that are then they can hack in. Another is scarcity and urgency. This is the fear of missing out. Good old FOMO. It's used in marketing, persuasion, but boy, it is so powerful for scammers. They really create artificial scarcity and urgency to push people into making impulsive decisions. When we are in a sense of urgency, reactivity, our frontal cortex, our thinking brain, hasn't had a chance to kick in yet. It's a slower brain, needs a few breaths. Our immediate fight, flight, freeze, reactive brain, called our limbic system, is immediately online. And when we get an urgency-based call or something scarce, or there might be a problem, that's the brain, we can often call it the lizard brain, that comes in to drive the bus. And it's never good to drive our bus in the big decisions in life. And so this is where we're given the limited time investment opportunity, the exclusive deal, or the threat of account closure, or the threat that your account is busy being hacked and you're going to lose more. So this rush to do something. And one of these, for example, in the crypto world, there's huge. The OneCoin scam was all about fraudsters convincing investors that they were buying into this revolutionary cryptocurrency, that they had to act fast before the price skyrocketed. And this really preys on the greed that we all have. Well, the two big things, fear and greed. So scarcity and greed, the fear of loss, and the wanting to be ahead and get more. And so this really led thousands of investors to put money into what turned out to just be a multi-billion-dollar Ponzi scheme. Think about where scarcity or urgency is also used when you get a phone call supposedly from the bank, but it's actually those fraudsters calling to say it's the fraud unit. They've just found out your account's been hacked, and you better do something about it quickly. They'll have a lot of information on you. It could be, identity numbers, social security numbers, account numbers, even your address. They'll say, let me just verify your name, and this gives you that sense of trust. Oh, okay, they verify themselves first. But always in those, it's like, how do we slow down? How do we give ourselves space to breathe? Say, great, I'll call you back, or I'll do this in that. The second is emotional manipulation. It's the next big psychological category. This is where scammers play on our feelings. So the panic and fear and panic, the act now or else, so this now plays on both the FOMO, the urgency and scarcity, and this fear and panic. So really, again, fear of missing out, but it uses to bypass the logical thinking. So calling about unpaid debts, your hacked accounts, your relatives have been kidnapped, and panic trigger. So we can then react without verifying that information. So this was a grandparent scam, which was really terrible, where fraudsters pose as grandchildren in distress, claiming they need urgent financial help. And many elderly victims, overwhelmed by emotions, send money before confirming the story. And so the next part of this is also hope and greed. So we've got that fear of loss and panic, and hope and greed on the other side, the too good to be true. So you'll see how these emotional manipulations are also used with that cognitive bias element, because they both got these similar flavors. Because the too good to be true is really when it preys on our desire for more, and also the fear of financial distress. So this easy out from a situation. So if an opportunity seems just way too good to be true, it probably is. This is where sense got to come back in, and not believing that there's one thing that can rescue us. And the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme really is such an example where highly intelligent, highly sophisticated people who really should have known better were hooked in. So it was both the cognitive bias of the authority. Here was this fund manager who seemed to know what they were doing, plus this promise of, wow, the insider club, the celebrities, those of us in the know, we're above it, we can get these outstanding returns. And so this promise of easy wealth can really blind victims to these red flags. The third psychological factor is social influence, just following the crowd, doing what everybody else has done, seen it on TikTok or Instagram, or your hairdresser down the road told you. And so social proof is a huge part of this. And we often look to others to determine what is trustworthy without, again, verifying. So it could even be Trustpilot sites, but it's very easy to create fake reviews and so on. So fake testimonials, paid influencers, fabricated news to build up that credibility. Now, the Fire Festival scam is such an example of that, where it convinced buyers to spend thousands to buy these tickets to this luxury music festival based on influencer endorsements, when in fact there was just nothing behind it. And when attendees arrived, there was no event. It was just this flooded field. There was no food. It was an absolute, it was a scam. Another key one about social influence is a sense of reciprocity. You've been given something and obliged to feel to give it back. So if something does something for you, you feel compelled to return the favor. This is so powerfully used just people on the street. If a vendor can get you to put something in your hand or give you this gift, no, here's a gift for you, this sense that to get something back. Street scammers often use this, that classic picking up the gold coin from the street that is used in Paris and many other places, where say, oh, I found this gold coin. If you can get a person to hold it, say, no, just like it's not mine, but maybe you can give me something for it. So scammers often use this, offering something free financial advice, insider tips, a small payout to build trust to really then get the larger sum. And you'll see really sophisticated scams will link these together, where there'll be initial side of authority, then really using that fear and greed drivers, not wanting to lose out, building trust and reciprocity with social influence. Others are doing it, show that reference, actually give you some great returns initially to lower your guard. And then the fourth psychological trait is the personality traits of that then increase risk. Now, overconfidence. I'm too smart to be scammed. Ironically, people who believe that they're immune to being scammed are often the most vulnerable because overconfidence leads us to risky decisions, ignoring warning signs, and this is also just not wanting to, there can be an edge of this overconfidence, which is just also wanting to be la-la, oh, everything's great. I don't want to look at the edge, only focus on the good stuff. And it's not about being negative, it's just about being real. And when we can have some real humility just and compassion about our humanness, can really help go, we fallible. Our brains can't process all this data at a very fast pace. These scams are very sophisticated. So we can slow down and just go, well, let's not assume we're being scammed, but just always go, okay, wow, this is interesting. Let me check in. The next aspect is empathy and trust, this double-edged sword, because highly empathetic individuals are more susceptible to scams involving charity frauds or romance scams, or even contribution to things where scammers pretend to need financial help due to a tragic situation. And none of us want to be cynical and none of us want to be closed-hearted, but it is important to just have, again, tune in the highest good, a mechanism of how can we slow down on this. Now, for example, in the infamous Twinder swindler case, Simon Leviev pretended to be a wealthy diamond trader, and he convinced many women he was in danger and needed financial help. And victims took out massive loans to help him, only to realize that they'd been conned. And there are many ways that this also happens in those romance scams and the connection. We want to belong, we want to have connection, and then we can trust individuals, we really can build up rapport, and then the challenge can happen. Now, another financial desperation can drive vulnerability to scams, which is why it's so important we get our financial base solid. Because when we're believing we're running out of time or we're in financial hardship and there's fewer options, whatever our story is, can really lead us to fall for scams and take outside risk, unnecessary risk. And when people maybe they're in a situation, they've got the story that, oh, I should be further ahead, or I've got a problem, or they've fallen on financial hardship. They're just far more likely to fall for these scams because they're looking for that silver bullet. They're looking for that relief of the pain. And so they fall for quick cash, debt relief, guaranteed return kind of promises, outsized results. And that desperation overrides just good open skepticism and makes them easy targets. So the psychological impact of being scammed is massive. The financial loss is one thing, it's devastating, but the emotional toil can be even worse. And victims often experience shame and embarrassment. So we feel humiliated, like, how could I, oh God, what if other people find out? They'll go, oh, told you, fear of what other people think. And so they often don't report the crime. This is similar to like sexual crime victims, victims of abuse in any way. These are very abusive, traumatic crimes against an individual. And so the shame and embarrassment of a situation of what does it mean about me can really push this into the dark, which is very devastating, because then that perpetuation of there must be something wrong with me, that shame and embarrassment breeds in that space and really can get us trapped. Another is a loss of trust, so a deep-seated fear of being deceived again, which can impact relationships and really good financial decisions and moving forward and investing, coming back in. So it's not just trust of others and opportunities, but we also can lose trust with ourselves. Like, God, if I could do that, can I trust myself with these decisions going forward? And the third is cognitive dissonance. So where we struggle to reconcile the belief that we are intelligent, but also with the reality that we're scammed. So this can lead to real stress and anxiety, and that's that self-doubt of moving forward. Like, how could I? Again, all linked. I was scammed by an event promoter, and I had actually worked with him for almost a year, who scammed me out of a big chunk of money that I never got paid, which was due. And for a long time, I just couldn't believe that I hadn't seen it. Like, wow, how did I not see this? How did I fall for this? How did I, you know, this cognitive dissonance was just so paralyzing. I now use the phrase for myself. I wanted to see a unicorn in this area. And this is this edge of those of us that are highly empathetic, also highly positive. We tend to be have a positive bias. We think the best of people and situation in life. So I really wanted to see a unicorn when in fact there was a donkey with a toilet plunger stuck on their head. And, we see the shadow, we see the things we want to see. And so bringing this all back. Now, how do you protect yourself from scams? Well, one, educate yourself. Knowledge is our best defense. Just be aware that scams are very real and they're becoming more and more and more sophisticated with the advent of AI. We've got entire scam cities that, in Southeast Asia, there are whole areas where you have Scammer Central, all the systems set up to do it. So it's no longer some desperate person trying to rob you down the street. And so when we can just understand that, we can stay informed, we can keep our financial security systems up to date, we can be aware of the scams, but we don't want to be paralyzed by that. So educate. But then the next is when something comes up, slow down. We need to use down-regulating things. Take a deep breath, move your body, get out of that limbic system so that the front part of your brain actually has a chance to support you in making an informed decision. If you really, if it is really urgent that your account is being hacked, you'll be able to put the phone down and call your bank to verify that. And if they start saying, no, we've got to do that now, that's immediately told you it's a scam, because generally often banks will say, no, you call us back, here's the number to verify this, or vice versa. Also, just notice if you receive an urgent request for money, just take a breath. How can I verify? What else might be there? Are there official channels I can check before you make those decisions? So important. And also the need to make an urgent decision because you're going to that lost opportunity. Really stop and ask yourself, what am I believing to be true? What is the story I'm believing in my head that is making me feel I have to act now? And that is a great way to go inside, to go, what is the story? Because at the core, scams are driving a certain set of stories and actions that we don't either want to see or verify. The third is trust the universe, trust life, trust others, but always verify. There's a lovely saying, it says, trust in Allah, but tie up your camels. And that is it, trust in God, but tie up your horses. Even if something appears completely legitimate, double check. See if there's other people that you can verify those. Call your bank directly, Google the company, look at Trustpilot and other kind of review sites. Really do some due diligence. Fourth is strengthen your digital security. Use strong passwords. You things like LastPass for your password storage. Use two-factor authentication on your different account systems. Be really cautious of unsolicited emails, text messages, WhatsApps, phone calls, all of those. Block them, report them, and just never share sensitive information over the phone or in an email or any kind of digital platform. Really check that any kind of credit card information and so on is checked in. And with this, to strengthening your digital security, also just make a habit of checking on the portals in your life, especially your financial portals. It's important that you look at your online banking. What are at least once a week, check what transactions have gone off your credit cards, your debit cards, your PayPal account. Make sure, are they verified? A lot of scammers use scammed and a black market or dark market credit cards, and they'll push through Facebook ad accounts to just test the credit cards. And so often this is one of the things they use fake Facebook ad accounts to check whether the credit card is actually valid, because a lot are just not their numbers. So look, suddenly if you've got some Facebook ads going off your account that you didn't even know about, and so on, and then make sure you report that, block that quickly. So a practice of just being on top of your data and your admin. Then really consult trusted individuals. When in doubt, talk to a trusted friend, a financial advisor, a family member before taking action. Now, it's not always easy because, especially with family members, they've also got their own stuff. They've also got their own fear and greed and cognitive bias triggers. So this is where it's great, is that if you've got a mastermind or a mentorship group or a community. One of the powerful things about the Wealth Builder community we have in the Wealth Chef world is a safe place to talk about money, to talk about scams, to talk about opportunities, and where there can be people who've got no vested interest just to be aligned, because there's nothing in it for them with you. They're not even a close friend. It's just people with a mission to all of us have a great relationship with money and get money serving us, to be able to say, well, have you considered this? What about that? Or I heard about such and such. Or yes, that is solid. I've done it. So those second, third opinions from people with no vested interest or link to you emotionally or financially can really save you a lot. And 6, listen to your gut. When we slow down enough and check in and just sometimes ask, is this too good to be true? Or maybe a better question is, what am I not wanting to see in this situation? What am I not wanting to do? Because some of the most sophisticated scams and the ones that really have the biggest impact are ones where a trust relationship is built, especially in the investing world, where I've heard of some devastating ones where people have invested sizable sums of money to build up real estate portfolios with a property sourcing agent, a property investment person, and who really, they felt like that person had their back. They really wanted to serve them, was for the greatest good, got a few deals in place. And when those fall through and show, wow, after all, it was just absolutely, a scam, and this person was just grooming me and then took me for a ride. Sometimes there is just that compassion. Say, well, you know what? They were so damn good. They're just a damn psychopath. And so I was going to say the 7th thing is self-compassion. But coming back to listening to your gut, is just notice if there's any prickly edges. Trust that instinct, check in, walk away if anything seems too good to be true. And if you also find yourself betraying some of your solid, wealthy life rules, if you're ending up putting more than you know you should in any one investment, in any one asset, in any one area, if you're asking to if you're starting to hide what you're doing from others in any way, these indications that it's off, but the other fear and greed monsters don't want you to see it. And finally, yes, have that self-compassion of your humanness. And this is why always limit your investment sizes, limit the decisions you make. So slowly, you can protect yourself. You can protect your money and your wealth from you and our emotional reactivity. So stay vigilant, stay safe. Scams are very real. They're getting more sophisticated. And when we can understand our human psychology and really know our deep humanness and find ways to down-regulate, slow down, check in on ourselves, what's really driving these decisions, we can then be less vulnerable and be able to make empowered financial decisions that are really aligned to serving us. And at its core, it comes back to being able to say, can I make the decisions in my financial life knowing that I'm already enough? I already have enough, rather than trying to seek to find things that are going to fix us, solve us, rescue us. And that's that fine edge. So the best defense is awareness. The best defense is some critical thinking and a willingness to just verify before acting. And that might be, if a person starts getting shirty or upset, that's okay. Remembering that you are responsible for the greatest asset called you, and that is first and foremost your primary responsibility. And so if anything demands urgency, secrecy, blind trust, it's a red flag waving in your face. Stay sharp, stay savvy, and keep trusting you so that you can live the greatest, wealthiest, thriving life that you know is yours to live.